All right, good day, students. Now, the last time we met, we looked at angles. We looked at the definition, the parts. Then we move on to the types, the features of each type rather. And then we looked at some examples of what each type of angle looks like. All right, and then we looked at drawing angles using a protractor. All right, you were given homework and assignment based on that. Now, today we will look at bisection of an angle as well as construction of angles. All right, now bisection of angles, it's very similar to bisection of a line in the sense that what we want to do is divide that angle into two equal parts, right? Or we want to divide the angle in half. That is the whole concept or the whole idea behind bisecting angles. All right, now I would draw an angle. I don't know the length, sorry, the size of this angle, right? I'll draw that angle and bisect it. So I'll just draw a random angle, right? I don't know the size of that angle, and then I would bisect it. So basically what I want to do is divide this space here into two equal parts. All right, so I'll move now. I'll take the pair of compasses. I'll place it at the vertex of the angle. All right, everybody's supposed to know that part is named the vertex. Also, I will label, the angle, because as we normally do, when you draw, you must label, right? So I place the compasses point at A, then I open the pencil point to a suitable radius. Now, when I say suitable radius, that is up to you, all right, to choose a radius that you are comfortable with. There is no direct length that we have to use. So I just open to a suitable radius and describe an arc. The purpose of this arc is to intersect the two arms of the angle, one at X and the other one at Y. Right, so we have two intersections there. What I do next is I go to either one of the two, which is X or Y. I'll go to X first, and I'll simply open the pair of compasses now to Y, right? It doesn't have to be exactly at Y, right? But we can just use that as a guideline. So from X, you open to Y, and you scribe an arc in the middle between the two arms of the angle. Now, when I finish doing that, with the same length, I go to Y, and I intersect that first arc that I scribed. So there I have an arc intersecting, and we can simply label that point as Z, that intersection. All right, then I'll draw a line from the vertex through that intersection, and that would give me the center of that angle. All right, that will give me the center of that angle. So there we would have divided an angle into two equal parts, right? So if this angle was, let's say, 50 degrees, then after we divide it, then we'd have two halves, with one being 25 and the other one being 25 degrees. All right, so that is how you bisect an angle. Now, the same step would apply for any angle that you want to bisect. Right? Let's say, for example, we want to bisect a reflex angle. Right? Let's see, like that. The steps are the same. The steps are the same, where you place the compass point at the vertex of the angle, and with a suitable radius, you scribe an arc. All right, now you go from one end, and in this case, you can open the pencil point to much longer than, you know, the other point, which was either X or Y. So with that, I would scribe an arc in this general direction. Then I would switch it around. I would go from the other intersection and intersect that arc with the same length. All right, and then I'll draw a line from a vertex straight across through the intersection. All right, and there I would have divided an angle. We don't know the size of the angle, but this side here, X, would be equal to this other side. All right, so those are the steps in how you bisect an angle. Now, why we bisect, or why we need to bisect an angle is when we move to construction of angles, in order to obtain or to construct some of the angles, we would need to do some amount of bisecting. All right, so it is very important that you understand the concept. So it is a similar, it is as simple as drawing your angle, scribing an arc, and then scribing two arcs on the inside. Right? It is as simple as that. Good. Moving on. Here are some work for you, as I normally do. Your homework and your assignment, draw the following angles and bisect them. So you work on these three, you draw them using your protractor, and then you bisect the angles. Same thing you do for these over here. All right, we went through drawing angles using a protractor, so you should be able to get that done. Now, bisecting angles, construction of angles. Now, there is a difference between drawing an angle and constructing an angle. Drawing an angle, you just take a protractor, find the degree, and draw it. But in this case, you would need to follow a particular step or a procedure in obtaining these angles, right? So, and mainly, we would normally use a pair of compasses when we're doing constructions, right? So we'll first look for 60 degrees, right? Let me just highlight that. We look for 60 degrees first. So in doing that, we need to draw our line first. Now, I'm not going to take a ruler and draw a line because of time. So I'll just select my line and draw it here. Everybody's supposed to know how to draw a line using a ruler. Now, the length of the line is not given, so you don't need to draw it to any particular length, right? You just draw a line. And of course, you must label. Now, as I said, when you're constructing, you will be required to use a pair of compasses. So the next thing we do is select the pair of compasses, place it at A, open to a suitable radius, any length, and you scribe something like a semicircle. Well, call it an arc, right? When you finish that, let's just label this part X. When you finish that, with the same length, you go to X. All right, you go to X and you scribe an arc to intersect the first one that you scribed just now. And we label that point Y. All right, we label that point y. So what we do next, we take our ruler and we draw a line from A through y, right? From A through y. Now, if you notice, I changed the thickness of that line because in terms of line work, the angle must be bright, or the two lines that makes up the angle must be bright. And the arc that help you to get the angles, those must be light, right? Those would be construction lines. So what we did there is that we constructed a 60-degree angle. So if you want to check, you can take your protractor, right? And you check, and you will see that that angle is directly 60 degrees. All right, so once you use the pair of compasses and you use the same length for the first arc and the same length for the second arc, automatically you will get 60 degrees. All right, you will get 60 degrees. Now, if you want to draw this from B, right, we have A and we have B. Right, if you want to draw the angle from B, then the steps will be the same. Right, you draw your arc. Right, then you go from the beginning of the arc, which we labeled as X just now. We switch it around and we draw another one to intersect there. And then we simply draw our line from B. So that would give us 60 degrees from B. All right, so any point, any side, any end of the line, you can draw this angle from, right? Any point also, because if you have a line here and you want to draw the angle from the center, let's say from here, then you simply place the compass point there, you draw your arc, you come here, and you draw a line through 60 degrees, all right? Or you draw the arc, you come from here, and you draw the other arc, and you draw it in this direction, right? So any point you can draw your angle from, right, on the line, any point on the line. Good. Now, moving on. If we are looking for 120 degrees, right? I'll skip 90 for now. I'll go straight to 120 degrees. Now, in order to get 120 degrees, we need to start just as we did for 60 degrees, right? So I'm not going to draw back a line. You would have to draw back another line in your book because you're looking at 120 now. So you draw the line AB again to any length, and you scribe this arc again using a suitable radius. Then whatever radius you use for this first arc, then you scribe the second one that will give you Y. Now, automatically, that gives you 60 degrees. Now, what happens if you add 60 to that 60 what you already have? All right, if you add 60 to 60, that means you will get 120, right? So from A, you draw a line through that point. And let's say that point would be labeled Z. Right, and that will give you 120 degrees. And if you want to check, you can always use your protractor. Right, you can always use your protractor, set it, and you would see that the angle there goes straight through 120 degrees. All right, so that is how you get 120. You just draw your line, draw the arc, mark 60, go on 60, mark another 60, that would give you 120. And of course, if you go and you mark a third arc, right? If you go and mark a third arc from Z, there. Of course, it did not intersect, but that will give you 120 plus 60. That will give you 180. And if you add another 60 to that, that would give you 240, and another one would give you 300. So you can find multiples of 60 degrees. All right, you can find multiples of 60 degrees. Good. Now, similarly, if you want to construct this angle from B, you do the same thing. Draw the line, come from B, draw the arc. With the same length, you draw the second arc. And then with the same length, you draw the third arc. After which, you draw a line through this second intersection, right? And that would give you an angle of 120 degrees. All right, it's very simple. It's very straightforward, right? If you want to draw 120 from any end of the line, you can simply mark your line, mark the point rather. You scribe your arc, then you scribe 60 and 120, and you draw a line through there. That will give you 120 degrees. Right now, if you want to draw the angle from the other direction, then you scribe 60 and 120, and you draw the angle there. So this part here now will be 120. All right, so any point on the line you can actually draw this angle from. Good. Now moving on, we are looking now for 90 degrees. Right, we're looking now for 90 degrees. So again, I will not start over from scratch. I will use the same lines that we have here because that is what you would have to do when you're looking for 90 degrees, right? So you draw the line, label AB. From A, you scribe an arc or a semicircle. Then you come from the beginning, which is X. You open to the same length that you use to scribe the arc. You come from X, scribe, you get Y. Then you go on Y, you scribe, you get Z. So that is 120. So Y is 60, Z is 120. Now we're looking for 90. Now, please note, from X to Y is 60. From Y to Z is also 60. Now, from Y, which is 60, we need to find 30 more degrees in order to get 90. All right, we need to find 30 more degrees because 60 and 30 would give you 90. So we know that from Y to Z is 60 degrees. So it means that we have to find the center of that 60 degrees. So this that we looked at just now, where we bisected angles, that is what we'll have to do now. We'll have to bisect between Y and Z. Now, you might be thinking that, there is no line there and there is no line there. So how are we bisecting? Now, we don't necessarily need the lines. We already have the points, Y and Z. So we use those 2 points. In other words, we go from Y open to Z. Let me just rotate this a little bit. Right, from Y to Z, and we scribe an arc above, like that. Then we go from Z, and we use the same measurement, Z to Y, and we intersect that arc. So there, we bisected this space, which was 60 degrees, and now it will give us a center of 30 degrees. So 30 plus 60 will give you a right angle, which is 90 degrees. All right, so that is how you construct a 90 degrees angle. Now, I'll remove these over here, and I'll just do them from scratch so that you would understand a little better, just in case some persons are lost. So I draw the line, AB. I go from B. All right, let me just close this in a bit. and I draw a semicircle. Let me open that a little bit more. That is a little bit too narrow. Good. So I draw my arc, right? It doesn't matter if it go all the way around, nothing is wrong with that. Then I go from there, I scribe an arc to intersect that part there. And yes, you guessed it right, that would give me 60 degrees. Then when I go on 60, and I mark another 60, that will give me 120. Right, that will give me 120. So what I do, I remain on the 60, and at the same time, I scribe an arc above, somewhere around there. If you want to connect it, nothing is wrong. Right, nothing is wrong if it's connected because we're using the same distance. Then we go on 120, we switch it around, and we scribe an arc to intersect that one above. And then we simply come from B and we draw our line. Now that is not accurate, right? That is not accurate at all. But those are the steps you would have to follow in getting that angle. All right, so 90 degrees there for you. All right, 90 degrees there for you. Good. Now I'll skip 30 for now. I'll go straight to 45 because 45 is the half of 90. So in order to get 45 degrees, we should first find 90 degrees, which I just showed you how to do it. However, in this case, we do not need a bold line there. So what I'll do, I'll select a broken line because I don't want anybody to get confused with the lines. Right, so I'll use a broken line instead of the bold 90 degrees. So I'll just use that because I want to establish the point that we are using. So we have X and then we have 90, which is here. All right, so what we'll do now, as I said, in order to get 45, we should find 90 first. So you draw the line, scribe the first arc, then you scribe the next one, which would give you 60, and you scribe this one, which would give you 120. You do your bisection, and you draw the broken line up. That would give you 90 degrees. So in order to get 45, we go from X, and we open to 90. And we scribe an arc somewhere in between here. You remember, we are bisecting 90 degrees in order to get 45. So we come here and we intersect. You remember, we use the same measurement. And if you notice throughout all of these constructions, whatever measurement we start with first, we need to continue using that. All right. Now, in this case, you can adjust when you're looking for these two arcs in the middle here. But whatever measurement you use for the first arc, you need to use it for the second one also. Now, when we finish, we draw our line from A through that intersection. Now, let me just change that line. Right, from A through that intersection, and there we obtain 45 degrees. All right, so that is how you go about constructing a 45 degrees angle. Good. Now, basically it's the same you would have to do from here, right? You use this point and this point, you scribe two arcs in the middle, and you draw your line straight through, and that will give you 45. All right, that will give you 45 degrees. Now, I'll continue skipping 30. I'll skip 15. I'll go to 75. So what I'll do in this case, I'll remove this 45 degrees. right? I'll remove the 45 degrees. And now I'll demonstrate how to get 75 and how to get 105. So in order to get 75, you start by drawing your baseline, AB, whatever length. Describe the first semicircle or the first arc. Describe that, you get X. Go on X, you describe the first one, you get Y. Then you describe the second, you get Z. Then you do your intersection up there, you get 90 degrees. Why we have to find 90? Right? That's a big question. Why do we have to find 90? So the measurements from here, from Y, oh, 90 is 30 degrees. That's the size from Y to 90. I'll just put a little mark here. It's 30 degrees. Now, if Y is 60, remember Y is 60. 60 and how much would give you 75? That would be 15. 60 plus 15. Now, if this entire space here, right, this entire space from 90 to 60 is 30 degrees, it means that we have to bisect that little portion there in order to get 15. All right, let me just remove those so you can see what I'll be doing next. So we want to bisect between 60 and 90 in order to get 75. Good. So I'll use again the pair of compasses. I'll go to Y first, then I open to 90, which is somewhere about there, right? You don't have to be exactly on 90. Then you mark an arc in the middle here. All right. Then with the same measurement that you mark that arc with, you go on 90. Now, you go on 90 and you intersect that arc. So you have a little intersection there and you draw a line through that intersection, and that will give you or should give you 75 degrees, right? This entire angle here from this line to here is 75 degrees. All right, it's 75 degrees. That's how we construct a 75-degree angle. Good. Now, the same thing you'd have to do on this side, right? You bisect between this space and that space, and you draw a line straight through there, and that will give you 75, right? If you want to take your protractor and double check, right? That will give you or should give you 75 degrees. Right? It's not 100% accurate in this case, but you can see it's very close. Of course, when you are doing yours, you need to ensure that you get your 75. You see 70 here and you see 80, 75 is directly in between. All right, so that's how you get 75 degrees. Now, moving on to the last one, which is 105. And let me just remove these arcs. 105 is just the opposite of where 75 is. So 90, we know 90 is here. 90 and how much would give you 105? 90 plus 15 will give you 105. We know that this is 90, we know that this here is 120, right? Z is 120. So from 90 to 120, we have 30 degrees again, right? We have 30 degrees in that space. So we need to bisect this space in order to get that 15 that we are looking for. So we follow the steps again. We go from 90 in this case. Right, we go from 90, we open to somewhere close to 120. Or if you want, you can open it a little bit more and you scribe an arc in this general direction. right? When you finish with that, you move and you go to Z now, and you intersect that arc that you just scribed there just now using the same length. Now, when you have that intersection, you draw a line from A through that intersection. So there you bisected that angle from 90 to 120, which is 30 degrees. And if you bisect 30, remember the whole idea about bisecting is finding the center. So if you find the center of 30 degrees, then of course that is 15. So 90 and 15 will give you 105. All right, so that's how you find 105 degrees. So the same thing was done on this side. At B, you bisect this portion here, and you draw a line through there, and that will give you 105 degrees. All right, now let me move to finding 30 degrees and 15 degrees. Now, of course, when you're looking for 30, you don't have to get 90. You don't have to get 120 neither. So I'll just remove all of them that you don't need. Right, all you need would be 60 degrees because you're looking for 30, and we know that 30 is a half of 60. So you draw a line, scribe the semicircle, you come from X, you find 60 degrees, which is at Y. So all you simply do now is bisect from Y to 0, which is X. So you open to the general direction of X, all right? And you scribe an arc in the middle somewhere around there. Then you go to X and you intersect that arc that you scribe. And you draw a line from A through that intersection, and that should give you 30 degrees. All right, that should give you 30 degrees. Same thing, of course, you do from B when you're doing the construction here. You just find your 60 degrees, bisect 60, and you get 30. Good, now let's look for 15. We know that 15 is a half of 30. So of course, we need to find 30. Now in this case, we would find 30 degrees and we'll find 30 degrees, but we'll use a broken line because 30 is not what we're looking for. So after we find 30, then we further bisect 30 in order to give us 15. So you go at 30 or at X, let's start from X first. Open to 30, or you don't have to be exactly at 30, and you scribe an arc in the middle. Right, you scribe an arc in the middle. Then you go from 30 degrees, which is this point here, and you intersect that first arc. And you simply use your line. I'm sure I get a bold line, and I draw through that intersection. And there you have 15 degrees. If you want to further bisect that 15, then you will get 7.5 degrees. All right, so you can obtain various angles simply by bisecting, right? That is why I ensure I covered bisection of an angle just now before we start this construction of angle. Good. So those are those steps that I demonstrated is how you get these various angles. Now, please note, if you are given an angle, for example, 41 degrees, please don't try constructing it. Don't try constructing it. It might be possible, but it will be very difficult for you to construct a 41-degree angle. Likewise, a 70 degree or 122 degrees or 7 or 61 or 131, right? Those angles, they are very difficult to construct. So if you are given angles like that, then you use your protractor and obtain those angles. However, these angles that I have here, that was listed here, these can be constructed. Likewise, we have others like 135. We have 150. We have 300 degrees, right? Those we can actually construct, right? Because if we're looking for 135, then of course we draw the line, describe the arc, 60, 120, and you describe another one that will give you 180, right? From 180 to 120 and 180, there is 60 degrees there. So you bisect that 60 degrees and you will end up with 150. So you can't find 150. When you further bisect these two little parts here, you will end up with 135. All right, so continuously bisecting angles will give you a few others, right? But some of them is very, very difficult to obtain. So besides these, of course, in the case of a test, I will tell you whether to construct or to draw. All right, if I don't, then please note some of the angles that you would not be able to construct. If you come across such, then you use your protractor. All right, so that brings me now to your homework and assignment. You complete all of these. You practice them in your exercise book, and then you complete these for your assignment. All right. You would only be required to draw them from one side of the line. For example, you draw your line and you either construct the angle from A or from B. The choice is yours. You don't have to do from both ends of the line as we did when we looked at drawing angles using a protractor. Right? So only one end of the line you would be required to do each one of them from, right? Any end of your choice. Good. That's the end of today's video on construction of angles and bisection of angles. Goodbye.